Hello everyone, my name is Rafael Vidaurre, also known as Franco, and welcome to the second of many devlogs that we're gonna have here at the Beacon. So today we're gonna be talking about field items and what field items are, what's their role in the game, and also touch a little bit on what systems are involved in order to make field items possible.
So, Rafa, what exactly are field items?
So field items are items that you can use during runs. They're mostly consumable, but not necessarily so. And they can provide a lot of different functionalities, from utility to more offensive stuff. So field items would include things like a healing potion, or maybe something like a trap that you could set, or what we're going to show you today, which is the bomb.
Small disclaimer for everyone, nothing here is 100% final, right? Like everything can change, how it looks or how it will work in game, right?
Yeah, and one of the roles or one of the goals of Phase 2 is actually to start testing all of this crazy stuff and see what makes it into the final game. So you guys are gonna see a lot of, work in progress features. Well, not work in progress per se, but things that might not make it to the game, like experimental. That's the word. Features in the game, and it's we're hoping that you guys can help us figure out what's the good stuff and what it's not gonna work basically.
Cool. So, what are we gonna see today?
So basically, what I'm gonna do is just walk you through the different parts that make out the bomb. So we're gonna touch on a couple of systems that make this possible. Okay, so here's a little sprite of the bomb, and there's a couple of things that are involved here already. One of those things is our smart sprite system. This system allows us to basically create sprites that are composed out of smaller parts in a way that allows us to kind of bake in all of the sprites together and manage the different animations that might be involved. So just to give you a quick example, you can see here that we're using a smart sprite. It's that little icon there. Just by default, the character has 4 different parts. So for example, if I hide the body here, you can see it's no body anymore. There's actually more that you're not seeing here. So there's some default cosmetics that are already being rendered here. And if you see here, there's an animation player, which is used to control animations, as you guys can guess. And basically, I can just press play here, for example, and you can see the idle animation playing in all of these different elements at the same time. It's even more powerful than it looks because the fact that I just equip the weapon gives me extra animations, which are part of the sword and shield in this case. So for example, I can just play a loop here of the swing animations. One of the pains we had in the prototype version of the game was that this was just so hard to manage that we basically had to do it manually for every different combination of a weapon and a character or whatever else was involved in a particular sprite. So this is really already saving us a ton of time. There's another system that's involved here, which is the Aprite Importer. We basically forked a plugin that is available to the public, and we tweaked it so that we could use our Sprites sources, which are the files that artists create, and directly import them as final nodes to be used in the game. If you look at, for example, here at the base character, the artists go through each of these frames. They might tweak the duration of each frame. They also need to define what frames are involved in what animation. So there's a lot of manual work here that before we were having to duplicate, and now all of this gets interpreted by our plugin and it just works. So that's Smart Sprites and the Aprite Importer. And final part that's involved here is basically, well, Tinker again. So Tinker is what we use for a lot of the gameplay content part of the game. So how we script different behaviors in the game. So in the case of the bomb, we have a couple of things. We have a scene that is the projectile of the bomb. So the bomb here has a bunch of properties that we can tweak. For example, we have things like like the vertical speed of so this is a 2D game, right? But we're trying to simulate height. So for example, if I go here and I don't know, change the vertical position, you can see that the shadow stays there, but the bomb is now in the air. So this is one of the scenes. This is what the player is gonna throw through the air. And there's another one which is pretty cool, I think, which is the explosions. It has a couple of layers. So one would be the stuff that happens on the floor, and the other is the actual explosion. So if I play this animation, for example, it's called default. You can see that We have a cool animation there going on, and then there's something left on the ground. So these different layers get sorted separately with a system we have for sorting as well. We have a lot of custom systems, I guess. But yeah, that's the idea, right? Like to build our toolset as a studio so that every time we build something, it's easier to do. And hopefully one day it's something that you guys can use as well to create your own stuff within the beacon. So that's still a couple of years into the future, but it's one of the goals that we have as a company. Okay, so let's get into the cool stuff, I guess. Go ahead and show you how the bomb projectile works. So the bomb projectile has a Tinker schematic here. So it has some animations that it plays when it lands on the ground. There's some animations that play when it's, well, one animation, which is the spin animation, which happens when the projectile is in the air. And then there's the explode function that we're using here, which actually creates that explosion combat object, which is the entity that is gonna deal the damage. And then it despawns the bomb. I'm gonna remove the enemies for now, just so that we don't get too much visual noise. Okay, so you can see here, there's an item pickup of the bomb. So I grabbed it now, and I can decide where to cast it. Boop, and there we go. That causes the explosion. I actually forgot to show you one more thing. For each field item, we're using our gameplay abilities system, and basically this is where we configured, abilities, which are the things that happen when you press a specific key. All right, so there's a schematic for the ability as well, right? And this is kind of like the more important part. So you can see here, when we activate the ability, we start targeting flow, so to say. This is what you were seeing before, like this telegraph, and we have different targeting modes. So this one is called point area casting or targeting. And then basically once you have, well, you can decide to abort the cast, like, okay, no, I don't want to throw the bomb, or I can commit to it, and then the cooldowns are going to be applied. The charges of the bomb or any field item, I guess, that you're using would be subtracted from the total. And then we start doing, the specific stuff of the field item, in this case, mainly to cast this projectile. All right, so I guess like for a final demo, we could just test this out with some enemies. Okay, so some guys are spawning here. I'm just gonna, oh yeah, you probably hadn't seen those goblins before. That dash that you saw there is temporary, so you can ignore that. All right, so yeah, that's pretty much it. That's the bomb. And we're gonna try a couple of examples of bombs in phase 2, and this is just one of the field items we wanna try out. So for example, another mode for this bomb would be that just place it wherever you are, or that it just explodes immediately when it touches the ground. So they could have different benefits or, like issues for each of them.
Like maybe detonation on contact.
Yeah, so for example, we were thinking about, okay, if we're gonna throw the bomb, that could be just one type of bomb, right? Should we do it so that, okay, when you throw it, that it can bounce off, enemies, so that it ruins kind of like what you were expecting to happen just because you didn't think about, what was in front of you, like those kinds of things, right? Well, guys, thank you for joining us on our second devlog. Yeah, this is probably gonna be the last one until phase 2, as we, like shift gears towards, fully preparing the experience or finishing to prepare the experience for you guys. But thank you for joining us again. We really hope you enjoy your holidays, or the holidays really, that are coming up. And yeah, there's a lot more to come, so expect a ton of cool stuff in phase 2. We're looking forward to your suggestions and your feedback. That's really important for us in the coming phase.
Yeah, and so if you have any suggestions, maybe even ideas for field items, suggestions for the devlog itself, things you would like to see as information on screen or whatever, any suggestions in the video itself as well, please tell us. And yeah, thank you for joining us, and have a happy new year. See you next year. Bye bye.
See you guys. Bye.